Hey everyone, just wanted to give you another video. I'm gonna try to spice things up a little bit. Again, that's what I'm good at. Today I want to talk about, again, what I always talk about, mental health and PTSD and whatnot. And I wanted to talk it and kind of segue it to training. And again, this conversation is going to be, pretty much 100% specific for the first responder world, and even more so firefighting and EMS, mainly because that's my background and what I can really divulge in more. So, especially these days, training is huge, right? You see it all the time. Train like your life depends on it. Train like a life depends on it. You know, train like it's an actual job. Train like it's whatever it is, whether it's fire training, whether it's pin job training, whether it's just confined space, entanglement, down firefighter, tactical, active shoot, whatever the training is. We're training these days like we never used to. Hardcore for the most part. Are the departments that are lagging in that? Sure. And when I got on in the mid 90s, it wasn't pushed as much. We trained, we did what we had to, to meet the requirements that either the state or, whatever set forth for us to do. But when I started going for like my fire science degree back after I got out of high school in the mid to late 90s, that wasn't really promoted. It was like, oh, well, you gotta be some sort of fire geek now. Like, why would you do that? Nowadays, you can't stop learning about the job, right? And I know the cops do this as well. I mean, the cops train as well. But we push all this training for our job, which is huge, and it should be. Absolutely. You should absolutely be training as if it's an actual job, as if whatever the emergency is that you are having a training for is actually an emergency, like the training you should be, because that's how we perform the best under pressure in our jobs. And I support that. I never will stop supporting that. But why aren't we doing the same for mental health? And I just, like one of my last videos, I'm really looking for someone to answer that. And I haven't gotten a response back yet. No one's even private messaged me being like, hey, Hanks, don't be an asshole. This is why. And I guess I'm kind of looking for that outsider looking in or insider looking out. I don't know what would technically be, but that unbiased opinion, I guess, because for me, since forever coming to the job with trauma, I guess I don't understand why at this point in society in 2022, if we're spending hundreds of hours and spending thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on extra training for the job, why aren't we trying to be proactive and be prepared for when mental health issues and PTSD and the stress of the job eventually get to us, which happens a lot quicker than we're letting on to? Why can't that be emphasized? Why can't training with that be put into place more overspread, like more departments or more areas doing it? Are there departments and agencies having preparedness training on mental health? Absolutely. You guys are out there, and I'm not ignoring your existence, but you're like a less than 1% of all emergency services out there, and that is an issue. I don't know what the numbers are exactly, because there's, with family not wanting people's deaths to be listed as suicides. There is currently about 7 first responder deaths out here in New England. And I'm generalizing this so no one gets their panties in a bunch. There's been about 7 first responder deaths out here in New England, from what I can tell, confirmed or unconfirmed, in the last week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks. And that's just what's made the news, or what I've been able to research and see. Some have been like, this person killed themselves. Some have been like suddenly, some have been unexpectedly. But from digging in and finding other resources, a lot of these are pointing towards suicide. And then there's been a few that have been spouses of first responders that have ended their life. And it doesn't have to even go that far. It doesn't have to be the suicides that are necessarily, that should be the breaking point, right? We need to train and be prepared for when this job inevitably affects us. And if it doesn't directly and negatively affect you, it will affect someone you're working with or several from your department or agency. It will. And all you got to do is just look at behavior patterns, look at personal life patterns, look at divorce rates, look at anger issues, look at drinking problems, look at leaving the job without, the big hurrah at the end, walking away from it all, demotions, people be having their responsibilities removed from them. The job affects us, and we're not training for it. I'm not saying that we're going to avoid the stress that comes inherently with this job. We're not. Our jobs are stressful, and I want to get out things. Maybe I haven't stressed this enough, to use stress in a different term. Our jobs require us to be badass, and whether you're on a rinky-dink 2,500 people town that maybe does 300 calls a year, or you're on a metropolis that you're running 300 calls a week, you have to be a pretty tough person to do this job. The mental health end of things, the acknowledging PTSD, the training and being prepared for this stuff, and the stress and the burnout from the job doesn't take that away. If anything, it's going to make you more resilient. It's going to make you more stronger. It's going to make you able to stay on the job. It's going to allow you to help others to stay on the job. It's going to allow you to be a stronger group, a stronger company, a stronger force, a stronger voice. Folks, our mental capacity, our mental health, and our ability to push forward is so dependent on us taking care of it. If you ignore it, if you push it to the side, and especially, again, the first responder world, if you deny its existence and you are not taking care of it, it doesn't matter to me, no, I'm doing fine, it will eventually bite you in the ass. And it doesn't need to happen that way. It doesn't. Folks, there's science behind this now. And you can all have your opinions on science, but the proof's in the pudding. The job affects us, and we need to start being proactive with that. And there are resources out there for that. There are a lot of resources out there for that. And one of the biggest resources is just talking about it on the job. Talking about it with your coworkers, your brothers, your sisters, the ranking officers, the chief officers, administrators, peer support groups, CISM teams. But why are we waiting for a CISM team to be activated before we start dealing with how the job affects us? So it takes a traumatic call for someone to come out and sit with a group of responders and be like, how does this make you feel? And I've said this before, it wasn't always the dead baby calls or the burnt up grandmas that got me. Some of those I dealt with the best, because for the most part, and actually the whole part, I never, in my personal life, never had a burnt up grandma. I never had a dead baby. It was walking in the people's life and seeing the poverty. It was seeing the anger, seeing the domestic violence. It was seeing people lose shit. It was seeing people being terrified. It was seeing people being sad. It was seeing people being hurt. It wasn't necessarily the specifics of what the incident was that required a CISM team to be activated that affected me. And now, years later, with all the talking I've done across this country with people, that's apparently a lot of what happens, is we tie certain parts of the job, a lot of the job, into parts of our personal life that we've experienced ourselves. And that is how it affects us. And that's fine. The job should affect us, but we can navigate this path a lot more healthy. There are resources for that, folks. And with all the emphasis, and these days you see it, you see all over social media and YouTube, you see all these, like, especially, no offense to EMS and dispatch, but fire and police, you see countless hardcore training videos these days, physical fitness stuff. But by the way, we have a long ways to go to get better with our physical fitness. I'm sorry. Every time I pull up some sort of firefighter ad, there's guys there with a little bit more extra weight than they should have to be safe on the job. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. You see it. You see all these training videos, and they're pushing the job, which is great. We should be. We should be able to do the job with our eyes closed, and that's great. But we should also be proactively approaching mental health, because the job will affect us or those we work with. And if it doesn't do it to them, we're bringing it home, and it's affecting our families, specifically our spouses. And it's just a matter of dealing. It's just a matter of, and I don't have the direct answer for how often, but it's just a matter of occasionally having trainings, having meetings, having speakers come in and talking about their experiences and getting this out there. So when you say mental health, people aren't like PTSD, depression. Oh, that person killed themselves. Oh, no, they didn't. They died suddenly. They died suddenly. They didn't kill themselves. They died suddenly. Yeah, they died suddenly because they killed themselves. And I've already had that video. I've already given a lot of you insight into what that moment is like. And if you haven't seen it, you can go to my YouTube channel. Just look up my name. I can attach the link to this video as well, but just look up my name on YouTube and you can find the video where I talk about what it's like to try to end your own life. Folks, we can be stronger at this job and better at this job and more resilient at this job than we currently are. And all it takes is doing a little proactive training on mental health, stressors, and burnout, because all of that affects every pillar of the first responder world, whether it's fire, police, EMS, dispatch, corrections, or veterans / military. It affects us and our families. It doesn't have to always affect us negatively. And if it does affect us negatively, it doesn't have to do it for the long term. It doesn't have to be career ended. It doesn't have to be relationship ending, health ending, life ending. It doesn't. Let's start talking about this. I had a great conversation yesterday at a get together with someone in the EMS world. And we got about 2.5 minutes into the conversation. And he looked at me and goes, "Would you come out and do a training?" And I was like, "Yep." Didn't even hesitate. I didn't even move my head away from him. I was like, "Yes." And it's for an agency that I left not on best terms, but I would go back in a heartbeat to talk about this, to help people that I don't even know. Because that's what we need to do, folks. We do it for the train. We do it for throwing ladders. We do it for advancing hose lines, pin job and extrications training, first aid and traumatic calls, CPR, active shooting, tactical, all this. We do it for all that. Why can't we do it to help ourselves? It's okay to help ourselves, by the way. It's okay to be healthy ourselves. It's okay for the helpers and the caregivers and the protectors and the warriors to have people help them, for us to help ourselves. We can do it. There's no shame in that. We'll become better at our job. Don't we all want to be better at our job? I know when I was on the job, I always wanted to be the best I could be, so people knew they could depend on me. My mental health limited what I could, how far I could do that. What if we broke down some of that barrier and we were becoming the very best at what we did all the time? Think about it. Again, folks, this one's gonna be over 14, probably closer to 15 minutes, but whatever. I give up on the time limit at this point. Give me a like, give me a comment, share the video. Look up on YouTube. I'll put the link. I'll try to put the link in the video. And then if you're on YouTube, subscribe. I'm trying to get this out there. Eventually, I'm going to come up with a site where I'll have blogs specifically for mental health and the job and all this, all that's in the works. And then hopefully we can start breaking down some more of the stigma and everyone can start being more mentally healthy and more resilient. It is possible, folks. So let's talk about this again with what we talked about today. If there's people out there who are interested in trying to have a class, it's not just me. There's some other people I know who'll be willing to help organizations run some classes or whatever. There's those of us out there who could help you guys organize these things. So let's talk about it. If you're interested in something like that, shoot me a private message. I can guide you. I can help you. I can offer my services, whatever. Let's talk about it, folks. Much love. Have a good day.